Okay, let's talk about nighttime cloth diapering. If you are brand new to cloth diapers, one thing that you may not know yet is that your daytime cloth diapering game is probably going to be different from your nighttime cloth diapering game. Maybe not so much in the newborn stage because you're getting up and probably changing pretty often during the night anyway. But as your baby gets older, you're hopefully going to get longer and longer stretches, which means you're going to need a diaper that accommodates all of that peeing. And so I'm going to share with you what has worked for us. Now, I do want to say that you don't necessarily have to purchase a completely separate stash for nighttime. It just kind of depends on what you have in your daytime stash. And hopefully some of what I share will allow you to kind of utilize some of the absorbency you already have for nighttime. But I have found that nighttime cloth diapering has been a little bit of a moving target. It's taken a little bit of trial and error depending on how old my baby was and how much she was taking in. I will mention that we bed share. She was exclusively breastfed, and then as we got into solids, and then later when she turned a year old and started taking in additional fluids, things changed along those markers as well. So the first thing that I would say that has worked so well for us has been wool. And if you've done a little bit of research in nighttime cloth diapering, you may have come up with this suggestion already and seen it recommended. Wool is amazing for nighttime. And a big part of that is because wool has this phenomenal capacity to wick away moisture and to hold a certain amount of moisture. So if your absorbency gets tapped out, wool steps in and goes, hey, I can create a little buffer for you so that it doesn't mean that that fluid has to end up in pajamas and bed sheets. And so we have really would not have been able to survive cloth diapering without our wool covers. This is a Baby Greens classic wool cover. So you can see it's got snaps here on the sides that allows you to put it on baby. It's an interlock wool, so it is going to be stretchy. And I would definitely recommend if you're doing wool for night to either do a knit or an interlock. Don't do a woven wool cover because those won't be able to stretch and allow you to pack in a bunch of extra absorbency. I would recommend getting probably 2 covers if they're just going to be nighttime use. That way you can alternate between nights, or if you need to wash one because it's just finally gotten to the point where it reeks of pee, you still have one that you can use. I know the Desana pull-on soaker style wool covers are also really popular. We opted for these partly because I do like to try and maybe do one change when my baby falls asleep 2 or 3 hours in. Doesn't always happen, and so I definitely have adjusted the absorbency for nights when I don't do that, but my baby doesn't wake up with a change too much, and so I've been able to get away with unsnapping this cover while she's laying on her back, sliding this out, sliding the new diaper in, and closing it up around her, which would not have been so much of an option with the pull-on style soakers. I would also encourage you to size up. So if your baby is normally in like a medium during the day, then do a large cover at night, or maybe even 2 sizes bigger, again, so that you can accommodate the extra bulk that you're going to need. So we, in addition to this cover, we also use a wool liner. This is also from Baby Greens. It is basically the same fabric as this, it's just one layer, serged around the edges, and it's lanolized along with the cover. And I lay it in here just for an extra little boost of protection. And it also does a good job of covering up that tag. So on nights when I have not adequately padded this diaper, we have experienced a little bit of wicking off the tag, and so having this liner here just helps prevent that. But it's a nice little extra insurance policy. So after that, I am laying in a large Thirsties hemp insert. If you're not familiar with hemp, hemp is another natural fiber like cotton, and it is a much denser fiber than cotton. And so it will serve as kind of the storage bank for all the excess pee. Cotton is really great at very quickly absorbing moisture, whereas hemp is really good for storing continual amounts over the course of the night. If you feel one of these bad boys, they are kind of dense and heavy compared to what you would imagine it to be if it was just cotton. They also take longer to dry. I do end up pulling these out of the dryer and letting them air dry just because they are so dense. So we've got the liner inside the cover. Sometimes I end up using 2 of these. There was definitely a period of time where she was peeing so much that I ended up just putting 2 of these inserts in. This is the large. They also come in a small, which is a little bit shorter. It's maybe slightly narrower, but it's more the length is the difference between the smaller and the larger. And these are actually cotton and hemp blend. But I'll put 1 or 2 of these in. And then for my kind of quick absorbing layer, I have either done one of 3 things. One really popular option is a fitted diaper. So fitted diapers have a layer here, and then the entire outer portion here is all absorbency, and they snap around baby, like so. So that's one option. This is a Baby Greens fitted. It is a purely cotton diaper. If you find that cotton is just not getting you enough mileage, there are hemp fitted diapers as well. I think Pooters is probably the most well-known for their hemp fitteds. But you can also put a Green Mountain Diapers Cloth Eez Workhorse would do the same trick. And again, I would size up 1 or 2 sizes of Workhorse for nighttime. I think Assembly also has fitted diapers that you can try. But that's one option. Another option is if you've got prefolds, to use a really big prefold. This is a Cloth Eez Green Mountain Diapers extra large prefold. This is the biggest one that they make. It is enormous. And what I do is I fold it down in the back so that the rise isn't too tall and it'll actually fit in the diaper. And then I can fold it around baby that way. And I actually don't secure, unless there's, like snaps on the fitted, I actually don't secure this around my baby at night just because she moves so much and I'm really worried about a snappy or a boingo being uncomfortable and popping loose. And so I just use the cover to kind of hold the absorbency in. That's another option. And then another thing I have tried is double layering my flats. So this is double diapering. So if you've got flats, you can utilize your flats. This is a bird's eye flat and a muslin flat. And then you can just do whatever typical fold you like to do on your baby. It makes for a very thick diaper. As you can see, this thing is quite chunky. But that's another option as well. And again, you're putting that into your very oversized cover. Now, the big thing that I want to emphasize with whatever hybrid of absorbencies you end up using, I have found that the trick with nighttime cloth diapering is always to try and figure out a good blend between having enough absorbency, but not padding the diaper so thickly that you end up stretching out this leg to where it is not touching baby's skin and you end up with a huge leg gap. So sometimes that just means, really kind of stretching this out around and kind of pulling this up to make sure it fits well. And maybe I end up tightening, this bottom snap one more time. Sometimes it means adjusting my absorbency so that I'm utilizing maybe another hemp insert, which again is going to be denser, but it's going to be a little bit thinner. So it's really like when I mentioned moving target, that's kind of what has been the juggle for me, because ironically, I would say the biggest problems that I've had with nighttime cloth diapering has been that I have failed to adequately seal this leg. And I can't tell you how many times I've had her laying on her side and she pees and the absorbency is like 95% dry because the pee just ran down her leg and out the side of the diaper and flooded the bed sheets. And so part of that has also been because there have been times where I've been kind of paranoid and over padded this area between her legs, and there's a gap between her private area and the actual diaper itself. So the diaper is not up against baby's skin, and so there's that gap as well. So again, depending on how big your baby is, how old your baby is, and how much they pee, that is something to pay close attention to. At one point, I did try the Stay Dry liners that Green Mountain Diapers sells on their website, just to see if, you know, she was rousing very often at night, and I wasn't sure if it was because she needed to pee and she was uncomfortable with being wet. And so just to test it out, I bought some of those Stay Dry liners, and I did find that they did, like the diaper in the morning did feel dry on top up against baby's skin when it was clearly very wet underneath. So they worked, but they didn't solve the night waking issue for us. So her crying in the middle of the night really didn't seem to have anything to do with being wet and uncomfortable. But if that's something that you want to try with your baby, I definitely had good success with those liners, and I felt like they did a good job. So that is something that you can also throw in on top of everything else up against baby's skin. We ended up not doing elimination communication at night. So if you've seen any of my other videos, I mentioned that we practice EC in addition to cloth diapering. And I could not bring myself to wake up to potty her over the top hot potty. I was just too exhausted. And so we really needed our cloth diapers, our nighttime diaper, to last us anywhere from 9 to 12 hours. And I would say, you know, this method with trial and error of the insides really got us through, especially, gosh, I want to see 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. She was really, really peeing a lot in her diaper. I will say though, now that she's 18 months, even though she is taking in, you know, water and fluids other than breast milk, she seems to be developing better bladder control because we offer the potty when she wakes up, we do the potty before she goes to bed, and that on average has seemed to keep her nighttime diapering needs a little bit less, which I wasn't expecting. I thought, oh, you know, toddlers, they pee a ton. So that might be something for you to look forward to. How do you know if you have enough absorbency? Well, obviously, if your bed sheets are wet, provided there wasn't a leg gap, or if pajamas are wet, then you know you need to up your absorbency game. But you may not have a very overt huge puddle. What may end up happening is the absorbency will be soaking wet, like you're literally peeling it off your baby. The cover is quite damp. And then if you sniff your bed sheets or baby's crib sheets and they smell faintly of urine, that's a good indicator that you probably need to adjust the absorbency inside. Or it could also be that you've been using this diaper hardcore so often and you need to rewash and relanolize. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, if you've got moisture wicking out of the tag, if you end up with a cover that has a tag, that can be an indicator that you need to up your absorbency as well. But if you wake baby up, peel the diaper off, and it is quite wet, and kind of like a wet swimsuit that you're pulling off, but everything else seems okay, the diaper cover seems to have handled it fine, your sheets don't smell like pee, then chances are you've kind of probably hit a sweet spot. If you cloth diaper at night, I would love to hear what solution has worked well for you. Let me know down in the comments. If there's any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.